All right, call to order the Tree Protection Board for January 10th, 2022. First order of business is approve the minutes from December 6th, 2021. Does anybody have any additions, deletions, corrections?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Have a second? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Having no old business, we move into new business. First one, North Maple Street, Old Dairy Road, Old Salisbury track. Do we have anybody here for that property? Morning.
Morning. I'm Weston McBee. I'm taking place with Chris Campo, who's been in COVID contact. So I'm going to be more of a conduit here. So I'm familiar with the trees. I'm familiar with the site, but
I don't think the mic works.
sorry, I'm soft spoken anyhow.
Bill, you want to give your assessment on this project and what you've seen with the trees?
Oh, that's loud. Yes, I've worked with Chris a good little bit on it. I've been out in the field a good little bit with him, and we graded all the grand trees that were in this easement here, and it's he did a real good job of trying to save what he could save. And he's moved it around so that he could miss some of them and take out some trees that already had problems. There's a few areas where we were getting into the drip line of a few of them, but he talked to y'all about that over there on Thursday.
And as I understand it, it meets the PUD agreement that was signed,
Yes, and I looked to check that.
You mean what?
the PUD agreement,
Oh, yeah.
but we'll be asking for some type of mitigation efforts to protect the root system.
Yes,
Okay.
In two places.
right.
First where-
Anywhere it's getting in the drip line of those trees, they're gonna have to come up with a mitigation plan.
And there were only two principal places. There was the one that went where the initial road comes in and bisects two clumps of live oak. And then the second was where it was a stub for a sewer line. And we wanted some satisfaction on what the degree of disturbance was going to be, because it was pretty close to moving that live oak.
Right. We'll keep an eye on that as they put up tree protection and all too, and
Okay.
they'll have to put all the tree protection up before they do any of this.
And just for, excuse me, discussion's sake, there is a portion of that project where there's pine trees that are part of a silviculture exemption.
That's correct, yes. And they're gonna bore all the way underneath that wetland, so they're not gonna disturb any of those trees in the wetland.
So do you have further discussion? Or are you content to?
I'm pretty content with it all.
Is there a motion that we made on this, or we simply?
No, we haven't made a motion yet to approve, just discussion's sake. If anybody has a motion, I think we were out there, all four of us visited the site and spent a good bit of time looking at the project as a whole. So if someone has a motion,
I'm also that we accept the potential for mitigation of trees that is influenced by utilities.
have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the permit based on mitigation and the plans that were presented to us. Any more discussion?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That was easy.
Fantastic.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, second new business, 201 West 9th North Street, Unit 312, removal of one pine and 3 gums. Is there anybody here representing that property? All right, Bill, we all saw it, but you want to give your assessment?
It was on that one real big pine tree. I guess the biggest thing we were looking at, they were doing was where they were doing the plumbing work inside and had cut the slab up and all the roots that were underneath the slab. The trees are healthy that are back there, but I guess that's their problem. They're too healthy and they're growing roots all the way underneath that slab. You can see a lot of surface roots heading back towards the building.
Particularly with, and only really with the sweet gum cluster, not with the big pine.
Yeah, the roots did look like sweet gum roots inside there.
Yes.
You said they did or did not?
They did look more like sweet gum roots. That they had dug up, the ones that they had dug up. But it wasn't anything cracking that we could see anywhere where anything had cracked or anything on the slab.
I was concerned about the possibility of that tree that had already been removed. Those root systems.
Yeah, we don't know where those roots went, so.
Right.
Didn't see any evidence of that one big pine tree back there, its roots growing towards the building. We didn't see any above ground roots growing back towards the building from it.
Right. So as far as the sweet gums are concerned, I don't know if anybody considered the option of getting rid of 2 of them and as a cluster and leaving 1, unless we regard it as a continuing threat to the building. Again, that's a big roof that got, 10 feet, 20 feet, however far it was, under the slab and not having affected it at all. Maybe that's a statement of the quality of the old slab.
Can you move up some, Jesse, to previous picture? Keep going. Keep going. I think one more. All right.
Thinking about that, you need to look at the tops of those and see, because it seems like not all of those were really healthy in the top.
Right.
One of them had looked like it had a little bit of dieback in the top.
That's just a thought. I mean, they are close, but were they 11?
Going down, Jesse, a little bit more.
You can see that other root stump. Barely.
I think you're gonna have
Right
to
there.
consider 2 and 3 as
There we
one
go.
tree.
See, number 2 looks a little bit weak in the top.
Yeah.
I think that is the closest one to the building.
Any more comments from the board? I mean, again, I think 2 and 3, Peter, to your point, they're so close at the base, taking one out is gonna impact the other. 4, I'm not sure about. Can we go back down to the cluster, Jesse? All right, that's good right there. So 4 should be the one to the far right.
The 4th one wasn't even one that we were considering, was it?
For removal.
Right.
Then we have 2, 3, and 4 on those trees.
I thought it was 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, 3.
And we had all 4 of them.
No, they're all, you can't see the flag. Well, Bill, what do you think about leaving one and getting rid of the rest?
I think if you're gonna save one, save the pine tree and get rid of all the maples, the gums back there. But it was roots growing all the way around the side of that house that were above ground.
And the gum. And the chair make a motion that we remove the gum trees and leave the pine tree.
I second that.
Have a second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is 213 West Second South Street, removal of 1 pine, 10 oak, and 9 others. I definitely know we have folks here for that.
Anybody wants to be a spokesman?
I'm gonna go ahead and introduce it and then let them answer questions since it's technically the town's application. 'Cause
Okay.
The town still owns the property. Hold on a second. Let me finish my notes from the previous one. Y'all talk, went too fast. All right. I gave each of y'all some additional information that was provided, so hopefully you have that in front of you. That's what I'm gonna go through real quickly. And again, if y'all have questions, they can answer them. So this is a kind of more detailed site plan, shows all the trees in yellow to be removed, trees in green to keep, and then I'll go over this a little bit more, but there's an area of potential soil gas caused by the former gas station that was here at 200 West Richardson, and that's this kind of area outlined in pink, red or pink. This is the proposed site plan overlaid with the trees as well. You've got this lighter green area is the driveway and parking areas. Got the darker gray is the building footprints. And the kind of brighter green is the public areas. You've got a promenade and then also public green space throughout the site. And then, as you can see, the buildings are pushed kind of closer to the side property line here, and that's to provide the adequate space between these buildings for fire response. They worked closely with our fire marshal on that as well. And so this clump of trees here, in addition to something I'll talk about in just a little bit, but this clump of trees here is pretty much going to be right. The building is going to be right kind of on top of them because of that need for the separation between these buildings to create that public promenade, which will be kind of similar to what Short Central is like, public promenade with the similar to what Short Central is like with that nice pedestrian promenade that is you see in downtown areas.
What is the surface nature where the 2 red arrows terminate?
I didn't hear you, Peter. I'm
What
sorry.
is the nature of the surface where those 2 red arrows terminate?
What's the nature of the surface?
Yeah.
That they would have to answer that. I'm not sure what. I don't know if they've gotten quite that far yet to have the exact surface.
The grass, is it the concrete? What is it? I'm just curious.
In the center of the promenade, Jeff Roberts for assisting the town of Somerville's application. Again, respectfully, we're not the applicant, the county is, so we're just here to answer the development questions such as this. The promenade is going to be pavers at the center of that. The one going horizontally is going to be a vegetated park, of which our landscape architect has plantings in multi-tier level, but the promenade, as Jesse said, is very similar to Short Central, and that's going to be a paver.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
It'll all be perfect.
I just wondered about fire trucks driving over it.
You wonder about what?
Fire trucks going over the surface.
And then, as you said, this area here will be more of an actual park space, through here. Sorry, my cursor's not working very well. And, you've got an existing ditch there that will have to be filled, and the stormwater will work through that, but, those trees along that ditch line are obviously not gonna be able to survive if they're filled, if that ditch is filled. This is showing the potential soil gas area. So this is where the previous gas station was, right at the corner of Richardson and Cedar, which I guess at the time was known as Blackjack and First. But and so they've had SCS engineers do a initial survey of the area and investigation, and found potential that this area is had vapor intrusion, and which means that the soils would need to be replaced. So again, you have additional questions about that, and I'm sure that can be answered.
Would you explain vapor intrusion?
Yeah, don't look at me, I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm assuming there's a gas station at one time and they had tanks in the ground,
Yes. I
and
mean,
then so there's probably a plume.
it just means that
underground
the
plume,
the
yeah.
tanks most likely leaked at some point, which means that the soil is contaminated and has to be cleaned up before anything can be done, which means it basically has to be all excavated and then replaced with soil that's not contaminated. So it's done with a lot of former gas station sites, unfortunately, because previously the tanks were not made of materials that are, we now encase them pretty well, but back then that certainly wasn't done. So
Jesse, is the red square showing a tank still in the ground on that aerial picture? Is that what that is?
these are soil gas, those sample location areas. And
I can assist in answering that. That was a tank, that was another tank from the late 1800s that we did a ground penetrating radar. Okay, and that tank probably also leaked too, because the ones that were made subsequently were better than that tank. So we can't tell if that tank's in the ground or not, but if it is, it's got to come out. And we suspect something that was in that tank could have leaked also as well. But that tank is from sometime in the 1800s.
this is just the overall survey of the site, which y'all have seen, but just to kind of show the grade change as well that they're having to work with on the site. I believe it's about a 7, 8 foot grade difference throughout the site. So you've got 67 feet up here, 66 feet up here, and it goes all the way down to 59 feet over here at West 2nd South Street. So that's another issue they're having to deal with that makes saving trees in the middle of the site difficult when you're having to deal with that type of grade change. Because as most of us know, we don't usually have that much of a grade change on a site in Somerville. Generally, it's a couple feet, but 8 feet's a pretty significant difference in the low country.
Is the sidewalk level going to change?
Is the sidewalk level going
Yeah.
to change?
How long is,
No, I mean, no, I mean, they're not, the sidewalk level probably won't change. However, you've got, again, with stormwater, they have to keep it all on site. And right now, this one kind of goes this way and this one goes this way, and they're going to have to all be routed to the same spot, to the same low point to work properly. So it's going to it kind of creates issues with making sure it all flows in the correct direction and not onto adjacent properties.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's all gonna head down towards the street, stormwater will be.
No, it'll be handled on site, but it'll eventually go out to, I'm assuming over here, the low point. I haven't been directly involved.
There'll be underground detention, and then there'll be a slow release. So basically, you have to hold your water,
Correct.
and then release it at a rate that the storm system can handle.
Where does that exit point exist?
The exit point, I don't know if it's been designed yet. It'll likely be entering into the system at Second Street.
Okay.
And generally, they try and use the existing low point, if possible.
I know there'll be tanks under the promenade area.
But to just follow up with that question, we are working hand in glove with technical review and have met with Russell Lance. And he is extremely impressed at the preliminary level of engineering and preparedness that this project has with Forsberg Engineering. And we work hand in glove with many meetings with Chris Camp.
Just curious.
Yep. So in the top page where you're showing like the red area, is that dirt gonna have to be removed? Have to be excavated and removed, exhibit A? I guess the yellow and the red, yeah. What's,
It's possible we need further testing of that, but we can't let a vapor plume be underneath the building.
Okay.
So, again, in that other page, like SCS engineers, there's a further proposal, but, we've already gone extremely far on this project from a due diligence perspective with the town, but we definitely want to get it right, and we have the top environmental engineer state looking at the project that work with us on all other stuff, so it's possible, we don't know how much of it has to get removed until we do additional test boring, but it's quite possible.
okay.
We just can't leave vapor intrusion there for future homeowners.
So for the board, I mean, the questions we had out in the field the other day, I'm not sure, I think they've been answered by Jesse. The pine trees are at a point so close to the building that they wouldn't survive or have to come down anyway, going into the property. And then a couple of trees that I asked about on Second Street, it appears that the building is going to be pretty much in that footprint or very close to it, even though the elevation may not change. So to me, one of the biggest things is protection of that big live oak adjacent to the property where the driveways could be coming. And that's just a mitigation plan that'll have to be worked out.
You're right.
Is that a fair statement for the board members?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, is there any more discussion or any more information? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we prove that what we were requested to approve, and the trees obviously can't stay, but to add particular attention to the root zone of the live oak on the adjacent property be dealt with as comprehensively as possible. And I know that's wordy, so I move that we approve the project as is with respect to the tree removal, with special attention paid to the passage of the driveway across the root zone of the neighbor's live oak.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
You got a question?
No real question. The application, the exhibit in the application where we had the arrows and everything, that's what got approved by the town, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And we will work hand in glove to get that live oak on the neighbor's property, the royal treatment will work with you.
We just need well, you need to get a arborist to come in there
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
give a mitigation plan and,
We'll work hand in glove, we got it covered.
okay,
That tree will thrive.
I already discussed it with our civil engineer.
all right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
All right.
Jesse.
All right, the last one's 110 Carroll Court, removal of 4 pine trees. Morning.
Favor.
You guys doing all right?
Doing fine, thank you.
All right. So we got just on the property itself, this is gonna be a guest house. We have a pool that was filled in on the right side of the property. And if you've been out there, you see it was a giant hump that was out there. We're looking to redo a pool out there in the coming 2 years. And then this is the spot on the property that between my son-in-law, who works for Pulte Homes, he's the one that's going to be heading the project. This is the best spot. We had a dead pine that's pretty much already back there. And then the rest of it's pretty much that. When we love our property the way it is, but this is just the best feasible spot for this project. So
Hey,
What-
let's look at the diagram. I believe this diagram that's on the screen here is slightly different than what we discussed when we were there. My suggestion is that, and it was probably done before we even came to that property, but you see that it includes removing that large 34 pine. And we discussed how it would be good to save that one, and personally felt that you would like to save that one, the other 3.
Yeah,
as well.
yes, sir. Once again, I mean, I don't know what his total plan is, but I do know for a fact that back in that area, if you've seen it, the pines and the trees that are back there are really nice. I mean, I enjoy the property the way it is. So I said it doesn't bother me for that tree to stay whatsoever. But the problem, I think, is from what he was saying is that, there's some grading and it's getting tight back there on, I guess, the side and the back side of the property where it's at. And he doesn't want to get too much further over on the other side because that other 32-inch pine's a big, healthy one that's there. So that's the spot that he suggested it to go.
Just a quick question, something we didn't discuss the other day, because I didn't realize there was a road to the right of the house. Is there any opportunity to put that cottage or house in the back right corner?
So we discussed this. The problem that we had on that side was that back in that right corner, that there's that private road that comes down. That's the town's road. And we could veer it in, but where it sits with that old pool, where it's at, it is not recommended to have any structure like this to be over the top of it. And there's a lot of additional work that was going to have to go into that project, I would assume. And it also puts it really tight back on that property line where I guess it gets to the legal question of where that falls. I'm not too sure much more on that side of it. I do know for us as homeowners, that left side is definitely the most ideal location with the road and everything we had put back there. But the pool was I know, a big issue, and that's where we're looking to do. We're looking to dig that pool up and put a pool there anyway. We're gonna have to do that at some point in the next 2 years. So
And so the key is, I'm assuming your brother who is the builder,
yes, sir.
okay? I'm assuming this is drawn to scale. The guest house. I'd really like to see, as you had stated yourself.
Yeah.
Some compromise that I believe, and again, that's why I'm curious about the dimension. I would surely like to see a compromise that would be beneficial to both the 32-inch pine, not get that close. That's pretty good distance away. Remember, it's where we were standing, it was up on a hill. The elevation was much different.
Right.
I don't know that moving it closer to that line going lengthwise across the property through the
So
street.
moving it just right a hair to avoid that 34 inch on the left.
Yeah, I mean, again,
Yeah.
it can't be just a hair. It depends on what kind of foundation is it. I guess it has to be a slab.
Yeah, it's slab.
With a poured foundation, rebar and all that.
Yes, sir.
I would surely like to see if there could not be a compromise made on that. Oh, yeah, no problem getting rid of the other trees, but that's a pretty nice tree there in the back, and it's basically on your property line when you consider it. That's I didn't realize that was a town accessory setback there.
Right.
Is that part of your property?
Yeah, that is, well,
Road
the
there?
way, so the way it was explained to me in the beginning, because I just bought this house about a year ago, that on that side over there, there was supposedly my neighbor John and I wanted to say his property line ran right up. It may have even gone over onto that side, just a hair. I couldn't remember what he said, if he planted trees there. He did something there to create a natural barrier between my property and his, which I'm thankful for because it's really nice. But, you know, it's also, I think either he may have a little tie-in on that side or that's in full my property. I couldn't tell you.
Well, anyhow, that's probably not relevant here anyhow. I would just really like to see if the compromise could be made to save that. Because that would make us both happy, if I recall our discussion.
Jesse, accessory setback, is that the same as a normal setback? Is that something different?
No, it's actually different. A primary structure setback for GR2 property is 15 feet. Accessory is actually only 10 feet.
And what is its purpose? Initially,
What's that?
what is its purpose initially to be?
Setbacks? The purpose of setbacks is to create separation between
but-
structures from the property line.
Okay. Because you were referring to that earlier, Kenny, as it looked like it was possibly a road, but it's just simply a setback line. Could
The
be.
road's on.
No, the
this
road's on
side,
the other side.
Where it says 15-foot dirt
Dirt
street.
Street, okay, I'm sorry.
That's outside his property. though.
I'm not sorry, my mistake. Anyhow, I thought this enough, I guess. Anyone else?
Well, I concur with Peter about that 34 inch. This appears like there's room to move that house to the right far enough. And, you know, I don't, minimum probably at least 10 feet or more. I would push as far as I can away from the 34 inch tree, just so you don't impact the root system of it.
And once again, I'm totally fine with that. That doesn't bother me. Like I said, you know, for me, these plans, you know, this is what he had sent me and this is what I got.
Jesse, can you scroll down and show the photo of the trees a little bit?
Yes, sir. Let me zoom out a little bit.
Yeah, they're not numbered.
I can tell you.
That's 32 inch in the foreground.
Yep, 32 inches, the first
Yeah.
one on the right.
Back left is the big 32.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so.
The 32-inch pine does look like it's further up closer to the house enough to scoot over.
Yeah, I think that one's totally good. Like I said, that one's fine. I think that one is definitely not an issue. I know that one that was partially dead, that one's in bad shape.
Well,
But that would be in one of the three in the middle there. that
Right.
would,
Those three are the ones that I would assume if we kept that one on the left, that 34 inch, we shifted it over. I don't think that 32 would conflict because you're still, would assume, is that, so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the dotted line that runs in the back, is that the property line?
Hold on a sec, let me zoom back in and out. So
Property lines would be the dark line.
property line is this dark
The
black
dark line,
line.
so the 5 feet, that's
The
the
5 foot,
easement
that's
off that
your-
line, correct?
Yeah, that's
so-
your rear setback.
So yeah, so that, I mean, I would think that would work.
Any more discussion or a motion?
I think we're good.
I'll make a motion that we permit. The numbers are here, but we know which trees they are. The 3 central trees of discussion, permit their removal. And ask that the 34-inch tree, whatever number it is, be saved. And if in the future, it becomes an engineering impossibility to keep that tree in the site, both for its own sake or for the building's sake, that we can visit again. We could discuss it more. I need to simplify that. Make a motion that we permit the 3 central trees on that cluster to be removed and the 34-inch pine not until a future discussion indicates its need to be removed.
I'll second that.
Okay, have a second. Any discussion?
Compromise on your part is commendable, sir.
I appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. Good luck with your project.
Hey, thank you guys.
Is there any miscellaneous discussion items?
Nothing under miscellaneous unless you know anybody who might be interested on serving on the committee with you, and please tell them to apply.
There's been none so far.
We still have no one who's applied, and we certainly need another member.
From all these council members, know somebody just died there on the tree committee?
Hmm.
No, that's a no.
Dying, that's not it.
Yeah.
Bad choice of words.
How about 109, special circle, something we should discuss in language.
We can't discuss a site unless it's on the agenda. We can discuss random things like another member, but we can't discuss a site
Another what?
unless it's on the agenda. We can't discuss a site unless it's specifically on the agenda.
And what we said, but something else.
We can discuss things like your training or, needing another member, but if it's specific to a certain permit, we can't discuss it without it
I
being.
just need to do some investigation for you, sir.
Okay, well, we'll speak later about that after we return. Not today, but tomorrow.
All right, any more miscellaneous other than trying to find someone to help serve on the board? All right, well, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.